Hey lads and ladies, and welcome to another video on this channel. Now this video is going to be a bit different. It's not going to fall into any of the series that I've currently got going on. It's more of just an opinion on the things that have been mentioned at E3. Now there's been a whole bunch of games, consoles, upgrades and all things video game being mentioned at E3, but today's video is just going to stick to the things that interest me. There's been heaps of games like Horizon, God of War, and all these other games that have been announced and they look amazing. But they're not stuff that I'm particularly interested in. So today I'm going to go through about 5 or 6 games that I'm really interested in and tell you my opinions on them and why I think they do, or why they will, or why I think they won't work. The first game is Final Fantasy 15. Now, I'm a big Final Fantasy fan ever since I played 7 all the way back in the 90s. That game is almost 20 years old. That is a scary amount of years have passed since I played that game and loved that game. So Final Fantasy 15 was shown both at the Sony press conference and at the Xbox press conference. And to be honest, I was really disappointed. To be fair, I haven't really enjoyed a Final Fantasy game since Final Fantasy X. I played the others, I've played 13, and it hasn't grabbed me as it did at 7, 8, 9 and 10 grabbed me. So on that point I was really disappointed, and even this one looked really, really average. It looked really clunky. The animations in the battle sequence that they showed at the Microsoft press conference, I think, were very clunky and just didn't flow very easily. And it looked really confusing. Now, of course, the game isn't out yet, so there are updates and changes that can be made to the game before it's released. But just judging off what I've seen at the moment, it really doesn't look like something that's going to grab me. I was actually a bit disappointed that at the Sony press conference, where they did show some more Final Fantasy through VR, which again, I don't think is going to work, that they didn't show any Final Fantasy VII Remake. So I remember last year sitting in bed on my laptop late at night in Australia, opening up, watching the Sony press conference and seeing the Final Fantasy VII Remake teaser, if you will, come up, and I was excited. I was so ecstatic. I typed it all up. All my social media pipes went absolutely ballistic. I was just going on about how much I love Final Fantasy VII and how much I'm looking forward to this game. So unfortunately we didn't hear anything new about that game, which kind of had me a bit down. Though saying that, game's not out yet, so I'm willing to give it a chance. I'm not going to throw it away just based off what I've seen of 10 minutes of gameplay. I'm going to wait for the full game to be released, and then I'm going to give it a chance. And then, if it's still bad, then I'll be more than happy to write the game off. I read and watched a lot of people complain about the E3 conference, and I'm completely there with them, don't get me wrong. It was boring, it was dragged out. The games there didn't really interest me. Battlefield, I'm not a fan of realistic shooters, so Battlefield didn't really interest me. Star Wars Battlefront really let me down, so anything about that at the moment is really falling flat for me. Old Republic is the same. I can't remember the name of it, but EA did have a really nice looking indie game that they were talking about, and I really wish I remembered the name, but that looks really good. So I'll look into that for sure. And they had their EA Sports Collection. Now Madden, I dabble in Madden. I usually buy it some years and I'll enjoy playing it, but I'm not a huge online player of Madden. I sort of just play the career mode and play the franchise mode. But FIFA 16, now a lot of people really shut FIFA 16 down, going along the lines of, why is it at EA? No one's interested. It doesn't answer that demographic. Well, to be honest, I'm a demographic of people that love my video games, but I also love FIFA. So I was a bit hurt, not a bit hurt, but I was a bit worried that people are putting people who like FIFA 16 into one box and people who like fantasy or role-playing games into another box, when I fit into both boxes pretty easily, and I don't think I'm the only one. Well, anyway, FIFA came out. They came out like they do every year, and they talked about this journey mode, and it looks interesting, don't get me wrong. They talked about, was it Alex Hunter, I think his name was, and he looked, and they had the actor that does the voice acting for him come out, and he sort of did a bit of a monologue for about 30 seconds to a minute, and then sort of went into the trailer. Now, it really looked interesting. It's something that's along the lines of NBA 2K16 and their career mode for their player. And it really grabbed me until I heard a couple of things that sort of made me a bit on it. You can't change the look of Alex Hunter and the appearance of Alex Hunter. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I do like having a bit of ownership over a series that I do. You can't, and you also have to be in the Premier League, which is fair enough, because to put a mode together like this takes a lot of organisation, and just to do that on its own is hard work. So you can only really do it for the one league. Maybe FIFA 18, they might put out one in the Bundesliga or one in the BBVA. We'll wait and see. But it interests me. The lack of being able to change the name and change the appearance of the character does annoy me a bit, but I'm willing to look past it if the series is well put together and it's as enthralling and grabbing as the NBA 2K series career modes are. So I'm willing to look past it. It's also been mentioned that there's been changes to free kicks and penalties in this new series. Now, it's hard to tell what they're mentioning and how to sort of put it into words, because most people haven't played it. There's been a select few YouTubers and media personnel that have played the game that can probably give a better indication of what's been happening. But from what I've read about it and what I've heard other people say about it, free kicks and penalties have changed completely. So anything you're doing in FIFA 16 for penalties and free kicks, completely out the window. It's completely changed now. It is something of a difference. So we'll wait and see what happens there. Until there's a playable demo, it's sort of hard to tell what to think of the new FIFA. And even then, the demo is always, to me at least, feels different to the full release game that comes out in September. So we'll wait and see. I'm hoping that there's changes being made. FIFA 16 is still enjoyable. I still play it. But I can understand the gripes people have with it now and why that people want the change and want FIFA 17 to come out as soon as possible. So going over to the superhero side for a minute, there were two big superhero games that were announced over E3. One was Injustice 2, which I won't really talk into too much because it's pretty much just Injustice 1, but with a few more elements of you can equip your own items to change the fight as to how you want them to play, and it looks really good. The big announcement that I really enjoyed out of the Sony press conference was Spider-Man. Now, Spider-Man is a title that should make a really good video game. The same way that Batman all those years ago should have made a good video game, and it didn't make a good video game until Rocksteady finally brought it to the front. Now the new Spider-Man game has got Insomniac behind it, who have a pretty good track record with the most recent game, Sunset Overdrive, from all reports being a really fun and enjoyable game. I sort of played bits and pieces. I probably played altogether maybe an hour of it at a friend's house. I didn't really get extended time with it, but it was fun. It was enjoyable. The movement was fluid. And if they can do that with Spider-Man, that is really, really good. No gameplay has been released for this yet, though. One of my favourite PlayStation 1 games from all those years ago was actually the Spider-Man game on PlayStation 1. I can still remember the last level of that game where you're running down the hallway, you're trying to get away from a Doc Ock that has been taken over by the Carnage symbiote. Spoilers, I probably should have said, but if you really were interested, you probably would have played the game already. And that was a really good thing. You could change the costumes, you could web through levels. That was more of a streamlined game where you go from point A to point B and you have to beat up symbiotes, gangsters, villains along the way to get from that point A to point B, with a few boss fights sprinkled in between. This game's going to be more open world. Think of more Spider-Man 2 swinging around. So that's probably what Spider-Man, free-flowing, go here, I'm assuming, go here, finish this quest. You'll get a whole bunch of quests to continue the story, and then you'll get a couple of side quests on top of that. So that seems to be really interesting. Insomniac have a big group of programmers working on Spider-Man, so hopefully that means that this game could end up being of real good quality. A good quality Spider-Man game we've been asking for years and years and years. Actually, another big superhero mention I completely forgot about was the Batman series. They're getting two new games in. The Batman VR and the Batman Telltale games. Now I'll talk about the VR quickly. So the VR is going to be in the body of Batman / Bruce Wayne. You're going to be doing things as Bruce Wayne and as Batman. Now, I'm not sure how this is going to go. Firstly, I'm not sure about VR. until it gets mastered, there's going to be a lot of teething problems. So if it's well tested and it works well, then I'm more than happy to get VR. I think it's going to end up being about 300 American dollars. So for someone like me in the UK, it might end up being 175 odd pounds. We'll wait and see. So that looks really good. So I'm thinking for the VR, I'm hoping it focuses on Batman, the detective side of Batman's work, more than combat. Now, the reason I say that is because with VR, with virtual reality, I imagine putting on the mask, looking around on the ground to look for clues, forensics, anything that could help solve detective work for Batman. And I don't know how the combat would go on a VR game. I'm happy to be proven wrong. If they could get the combat fluid, then I'm more than happy to take that and work with that. But I'm hoping they do focus on detective work, because I think it's a great opportunity to have an enthralling detective game in a Batman skin, and that would look really good. The other Batman game that was mentioned is the Telltale game. Now, Telltale are great, and this I imagine will be more detective work, less combat, because the Telltale games focus on story and focus on interaction between characters. They don't really focus on action sequences. Now, they do sprinkle a few of those through their games, but they're not the best. They serve a purpose and they move on, but they're not the highlights of the games. I do enjoy the Walking Dead series and the Borderlands series of the Telltale games. I'm hoping this Batman continues that pattern of good, solid, enjoyable, story-driven games. Legend of Zelda came out. There was a lot of people hoping for Legend of Zelda this E3, and they got what they wanted. Now, there was a lot of gameplay shown, and this is just me giving you a quick opinion on it, so I'll put a link in the description below to link you to that Zelda gameplay, because it was amazing. It looked amazing. So it has a bit of a different look to it. There seems to be a bit more of a technology slant on it. So when Zelda opens up with a lot of technology, is a pod that opens up. They give you almost like a tablet sort of thing to work with. It's a bit of an interesting look. Link wakes up in a place called the Restoration Chamber, I think. Does that mean Link was dead? Who knows? It follows along the pattern of Link waking up at the start of a Zelda game to moving on to the story. So it was a good throwback. But was he dead? Was he not dead? Is it The Walking Dead with Link? Who knows? You'll have to probably get into the story a bit more to find that out. Then big change that I noticed in that hour of gameplay that I saw was all about the RPG elements. So you could change clothes for Link. You could give him clothes. You could give him weapons. You can give him shields. But there would seem to be a variety of those things you could give him. You could give him an axe. You could give him a sword. And they had different abilities and different values attached to them. So I think this is an interesting thing for Link, because for Zelda, because Zelda's always been known as a game that's purely adventure. You don't have to worry about equipping the best items. You maybe had to switch shirts once in a while if you were underwater or if you're in a volcano. But overall, you didn't have to think about the loadouts you put out. But now you have to think about what you're going to equip to best suit your situation, which will bring an interesting slant. And will it work? Who knows? We'll just have to wait and play the game. But so far, it looks like it could be a real winner. That's my opinion of a few games and a few things I saw at E3 about how they worked, and a bit of information about that if you missed that information at the conference. Like this video to let me know if you enjoyed it, as well as in the comments below, tell me what got you excited at E3. Was it the games that I've chosen, or was it a different game? Do you enjoy realistic shooters, for instance? I'm not a fan, but you might have really enjoyed it, and you might have thought the Battlefield 1 thing was the best thing at the show. Do let me know in the comments below. Subscribe to follow the rest of my content. I'm going to be continuing with my FIFA series all about the Euros, as well as my Supercoach AFL, if that is something you're interested in. Thank you for watching, guys. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you later.